In the quiet town of Cullings, beneath the pale light of the moon, Emma stood outside her apartment building with her best friend Alex. Emma had been set up on a blind date by another friend, Carla, who insisted that this was the perfect way to meet someone new, and Emma, in an uncharacteristic attempt at optimism, agreed to give it a shot. Alex, however, wasn't so thrilled about it. He had been harboring a secret crush on Emma for years, and the thought of her going on a date with someone else stung more than he cared to admit. "Are you sure about this, Em?" Alex asked as he leaned against the wall. "I mean, blind dates can be pretty unpredictable." Emma chuckled, giving Alex an affectionate pat on the shoulder. "Come on, Alex, it's just one date, it'll be fine." The cafe where the date was set to take place was only a few blocks away, so Emma had decided to walk. All she knew about this guy was what Carla had told her, that he was pre-med, attractive, funny. He sounded pretty great to Emma, which worried her a bit, as she didn't feel her own life had been going so well over the last year. She hadn't dated in a while, and she had always been on the self-deprecating side. Although, when she had expressed her concerns to Carla, she was met only with encouragement. "Sometimes you have to shoot for the moon," Carla had said. As Emma entered the quaint little cafe, she couldn't help but feel a wave of excitement and nervousness. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long while, and she had really missed it. Her phone chimed with a message from Alex, who had taken it upon himself to be her unofficial bodyguard for the evening. "Text me if anything feels off, and I'll be there in a heartbeat," it read. Grinning at her friend's protectiveness, Emma put her phone away and scanned the cafe for her date. But as minutes turned into an hour, it became clear that her date wasn't coming. Feeling a bit dejected and more than a little uneasy, she tried texting Carla, hopeful she had heard something from the guy, but Carla never responded. Becoming aggravated, she texted Alex, explaining that her date had stood her up, and asked him to meet her at a nearby park. Facing the solitude of her apartment seemed unbearable. She craved the comfort of companionship. Alex, always eager, replied promptly, promising to arrive in 15 minutes. Leaving the cafe, Emma trod toward the park, her thoughts a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She valued Alex's friendship, but feared she might be exploiting his feelings. It seemed pretty clear to her, especially in recent months, that Alex wanted more than friendship, and she didn't want to lead him on. As she walked along, her thoughts eclipsed the surroundings, her steps echoing in the stillness. However, as the night deepened, a disquieting awareness crept in. The usual city sounds faded, leaving an unsettling quiet that magnified the echo of her footsteps. A streetlight flickered, casting shadows that seemed to dance along the pavement. Anxiety prickled her skin as she became acutely aware of the darkness closing in. She began to second-guess her decision, regret creeping in like an unwelcome guest. Emma reached into her purse, fingers brushing against the cool metal of her pepper spray. She clutched it, a small comfort against the encroaching darkness, determined to forge ahead but vigilant to the silence and shadows that seemed to stir with a life of their own. Her heart raced. Every rustle of leaves was amplified in the silence of the night, and it felt as if unseen eyes were watching her every move. Emma quickened her pace, casting nervous glances over her shoulder. She spotted a suspicious figure lurking in the shadows of an alleyway as she passed. It was a man, older and scruffy-looking, with an unnerving glint in his eyes. Her instincts screamed at her to avoid him, and she broke into a brisk walk. As she hurried along the path, she could hear the man's footsteps following her, getting closer with every passing moment. Panic set in. She removed the pepper spray with one hand and fumbled for her phone to call Alex with the other. Before she could dial, a monstrous howl echoed through the night, freezing her in her tracks. She spun around, unsure of what she would even see, but no one was there. The man from before was nowhere in sight. She realized she was standing at the edge of the park and hoped Alex was close. Her pepper spray held at the ready, she quickly navigated to Alex's name in her phone and pressed the call button. Just as the ringback tone began, a low, deep growl rumbled from behind the nearby foliage. To Emma, it sounded like a dog, very large, very angry, and only a few feet away. She slowly turned to face the darkness. She heard Alex's voice over the phone as he answered. "Hey," he said. "You okay?" In that instant, something seized her by the arm and violently pulled her through the foliage. She was hurled through the air and hit the ground rolling, coming to a stop nearly 20 feet from where she had been standing seconds before. Her ears were ringing from the impact, but she could hear inhuman footsteps approaching from the dense foliage, from below the canopy of trees which lined the park's border. Lifting her gaze, a terrifying presence began to show itself to her. From the impenetrable darkness, a creature of unimaginable horror came into view before Emma's disbelieving eyes. A grotesque hybrid, its form twisted into a nightmarish amalgamation of wolf and man. Matted fur clung to its contorted limbs, and its bloodshot eyes gleamed with malice. As the moonlight revealed the monstrous silhouette, Emma's mind recoiled in shock. This wasn't a figment of her imagination. It was a bona fide monster. Pain and fear jolted through her, but a primal instinct urged her to flee. Battling the shock, she struggled to push herself up, her eyes fixed on the looming terror. The creature, now fully visible in the moon's glow, growled with feral intensity, teeth bared and claws unsheathed, propelling Emma to her feet. Emma's heart pounded in her ears as she sprinted deeper into the park, realizing she had dropped all her belongings in her desperate escape. Glancing back, she saw the monstrous creature calculating, giving her a deceptive lead, before commencing its relentless pursuit. The beast, shifting between 2 legs and 4, closed in as she ran towards a swing set, her shoulders brushing the chains as she dashed through. Moments later, she could hear the ominous clinking of chains again, indicating the creature's proximity. Seeking refuge behind a jungle gym, Emma tried to use it as a makeshift barricade between them. Locking eyes with the beast through the bars, it circled slowly, menacingly scraping its claws across the metal. Emma mirrored its movements, attempting to keep distance between them. She was suddenly reminded of Alex. He would be there soon, and would certainly attempt to save her, but he wouldn't stand a chance against this monstrosity. She found herself questioning her feelings for him, and then berating herself for such thoughts at the worst possible time. As the werewolf continued its sadistic game, Emma, in desperation, started climbing the jungle gym, hoping against hope that werewolves couldn't climb. Yet, the creature seemed amused, a smile forming as it prepared to strike. Just as the beast readied its pounce, a gunshot echoed through the night. The werewolf staggered, turning its attention to a man standing near the swing set, armed with a smoking revolver. The monster lunged in his direction. 3 more shots rang out and the creature fell, writhing in pain until it finally lay motionless on the ground. The man stepped closer, an expression of grim determination on his face. It was the same suspicious figure Emma had seen earlier. He had saved her. Tears streamed down Emma's face as she gasped for breath. "Thank you," she managed to utter, her voice trembling. The man nodded, his gaze never leaving the fallen creature. "It's a werewolf," he said gravely. "I used silver bullets." Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she carefully climbed to the ground, her eyes remaining fixed on the creature. It began to change, its monstrous form melting away, fur falling loosely into the grass, its elongated features returning to their normal proportions. When it was finished, the lifeless body of her friend Carla lay before her. Shock coursed through Emma's veins. This can't be real," she stammered. The man crouched beside the body and checked for a pulse. "Carla was my niece," he said sadly. Emma lifted her eyes to him. Carla had spoken much of her uncle, the man who had raised her. "I tried to help her," he continued, "but she had become a monster, hunting for the thrill of it." He stood and looked into Emma's eyes. "She grew to enjoy it," he said. "There was no other way to save her." Emma cried as she grappled with the horrifying truth. She couldn't believe her kind, sweet friend had transformed into a bloodthirsty creature of the night. "Why me?" she asked. "Why would Carla want to hurt me?" The man sighed. "I read her diary this morning while she was in class. She was in love with your friend Alex. The blind date was a setup just to get you out alone." Just then, Alex ran out of the darkness shouting for Emma. He rushed toward them, anger and worry spread across his face, and then quickly came to a halt at the sight of Carla's body. "What the hell happened here?" he implored. Emma took a deep breath, and with the man's help explained everything. Alex was stunned. unable to comprehend the nightmare that had unfolded. The man interrupted their conversation with a somber tone. "You should go. I'll stay and call the authorities. You two were never here." He shook his head. "They won't understand this, of course. They'll lock me away for it." "But you did nothing wrong," Emma said. "I could have done more to help her," he responded, choking back tears. "I loved her like a daughter, and I let it come to this." Emma's eyes pleaded with him, but he shook his head again. "This will be my penance," he said. "Please go, please." Emma nodded, her voice trembling. "Thank you again. Thank you so much." As Alex led Emma from that chilling scene, she glanced back at the man who had saved her, realizing that sometimes heroes wore the most unexpected masks. Reaching the sidewalk outside the park, her adrenaline began to lower, and she felt the aches of her encounter. A seething pain shot through her arm, and she realized that the sleeve of her jacket was shredded and bloody. Alex's eyes widened as he saw the torn sleeve and the blood. "Oh my God, are you okay?" he asked, worry lacing his voice. He delicately took her arm in his hands, peeling back the fabric to unveil deep, bloody gashes. "I think it bit me," she said. Without hesitation, he removed his jacket, swiftly tying one sleeve around her arm as a makeshift bandage. Hastening their steps, he led her to his parked car and helped her into the passenger seat. He ran around and settled into the driver's seat, taking off for the hospital. By the time they arrived, he noticed that Emma had untied the jacket and was inspecting her arm once more. "What are you doing?" he questioned. "You need to keep pressure on it." "No," she calmly replied. "I don't." With a mysterious certainty, she revealed her arm again. The blood remained, staining the fabric, but the wound had vanished without a trace, leaving both of them bewildered. Amidst the shadows, mysteries in the town of Cullings lingered like whispers on a cool breeze, weaving themselves into a tapestry of the unknown. In the end, some truths would remain buried in the depths of the night, others illuminated only by the light of the moon.